Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. How are you?
Good
I'm good.
morning.
How are you, Darrell?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here.
It's been a while. I'm kind of excited. I want to hear how everybody's open enrollment went. Morning, Rosalind. How are you? Hey, Chris, Denise. Like faces. Few of you cheat and have your face as your picture, but you know. Hey, Ken. We'll see how many people will join, and then we'll do a couple of housekeeping things and see what's happening with everybody. I'm in San Antonio, Texas, and then I'm supposed to check out at 11, so I'm like out the door as soon as this is done, heading back to cold North Wisconsin. Of course, I come to San Antonio, Texas, and what did I get? Rain. Like almost the whole time. Lots of rain.
We've had
Uh,
a lot of rain these last week or so.
yeah. Right after the freeze, so the Riverwalk, everything was dead.
We broke a record. This was the second rainiest January of all time.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, this has to be some kind of record. And of course, it's when I'm visiting from Wisconsin. Like, Texas is not supposed to be this cold. Good morning, Jennifer and Teresa.
April's lovely time to come down to San Antonio. We have our own little like Mardi Gras type thing called Fiesta, and it's like
Okay.
10-day celebration. So if you ever want to come down in April, that's the time. It's the only time. The rest of the time is pretty miserable.
It's either cold or hot, is what you're telling me. All right, got people joining. First time meeting since October. I know there's some new people that probably weren't part of the classes last time. If you were, thanks for coming back. Come on. Sure, I'm getting everybody. Right when you start to click on something, it moves. All right, we're right at 2 minutes after 10. Trying to get a couple more people as they're coming in. So down at the bottom, there is a button that you can hit that says raised hand. Does that. So I might ask you to just, hey, raise your hand if, so that I kind of know. If I'm not getting a lot of faces, I'm getting about 12 people. It's nice to have some interaction. I am also very much going to rely on you guys. I have some ideas for this year's trainings. Um, hey, Jim, I'm excited. I have some special guest speakers that are coming. I'm going to have two different insurance companies come talk to you so you understand what they're seeing on the back end. Talking to my local carrier who I've known since 2013, since the beginning, has helped me understand what they need, what they see, and how little control they have over anything. They really can't send anything back to healthcare.gov except cancellation for non-payment. So, they really have no control. And I'm going to my guys are nonprofit, but I'm hoping to get a for-profit person, insurance company to come in, kind of talk about why they pick their networks, especially if I can get United Healthcare to come on. I don't know if they will be honest about why they do what they do, but because United Healthcare Group is like the widest, biggest network there is, and then they come on the marketplace and it's this big. Why do they do that? Now I have a theory. They're for profit, and the marketplace cost them money and groups do not. But nonprofits are a little bit, they're not worrying about the money as much. So as opposed to for profit. So we'll see. But it's not going to be a product sale. I don't, we're not coming on air to sell product, but I want you to understand how insurance companies work. And that will help you understand how to tell your clients how it works. And then I've got a doctor kind of coming in. I've got some people that are specialists. And then I'm going to have some extra side classes that aren't necessarily these Thursdays. Like I have somebody who is, I can't remember which state exchange, but they're going to talk about the state exchange. Well, I don't want to take up a Thursday to talk about New York's state exchange when like 90% of you don't do New York. So I will also have some extra classes. So I created a new YouTube channel. So for all of you who did, um, like subscribe to my YouTube channel, I created a new one because the YouTube channel at Next Step Insurance is for my company. It was really meant for my clients to go so I could send them to learn about what is a deductible, what's a max out of pocket, what does copay mean, what's coinsurance. And then I didn't realize the success of these training videos. Originally, it was supposed to be like 5, and then it ended up being all of April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So they just grew and grew. So I have now a new YouTube channel. You saw my new email. It's coming from ACA Academy at Outlook. The YouTube channel is going to be the ACA Academy. So so the new YouTube links will send you to there if you want to, if you had become a member or subscription follower on the YouTube from Next Step Insurance. I'm going to move all those videos to the new one. So it's a bit of a process, but I just appreciate all of you. And I'd like to know, I mean, I guess with the raise of hand, was it a good open enrollment? Did you meet your goals? I'd like to know, because you know, so we got a few met their goals, had a good open enrollment. All right. How many of you did not meet your goal? Then raise your hand. Yeah. So then the question is, was your goal too high? Or was it, all right, I learned some things and now I need to adjust? Because that's sometimes I think, I have a goal. I'll tell you because I also sell group insurance. My group goal for this year is to get 2 over 100 groups, groups that are over 100. Because I have a lot of small groups. I work with a lot of small ones. So I'm going to, that's my goal. But is that realistic in my area? I don't know, but that's my goal. So I'm hoping, and I'm also hoping to double my group this year, which is my staff is a little freaked out by my lofty goal. So write your goals down of what you did and what you want to do for next year, but then start writing down what you want to do. And Rowena, I'm glad you're here because it's all new. I mean, I'm trying to teach stuff that's new all the way to the ones who are experts, and bring in some experts. Not everybody's like me. I push a lot of buttons. That's how I know what I know. I pushed so many buttons 2013 because healthcare.gov was the only way we could enroll people. And believe me, that is one of the most antiquated websites ever, and it still is. So we use Health Sherpa and it looks all pretty. And if you do a healthcare.gov, it still looks pretty. But I'm telling you, the chassis is still the 1998 technology. So it is not a smart system. That's if I could get all of you to understand one thing, it's not a smart system. I can't remember who said it. It might even been Ken. I don't know. Somebody told me I should market not a smart system. I should copyright that. It's not a smart system. And right now, the one thing it was smart about, they unclicked. So everybody's worried about SEPs and getting people in. It's not smart. So if you say somebody lost coverage on 12/31, you can get them coverage for February 1st. And if they're a marketplace, if they were on the marketplace last year in 2013 or 2023, boy, I'm really old. In 2023, all of their plans ended December 31st. It technically terminated December 31st. Their new plans start January 1st. So it's not like Medicare. It's not like an Advantage plan where it's the same plan, just kind of renewed or a supplement. It's a brand new plan. Even if it looks the same, it's not. So all of their insurance, everybody who was on healthcare.gov in 2023, their insurance ended 12/31. So what happens? Anyone know what happens if your insurance ends? How much do you have to get a new coverage? Jill, you know? You
60
have
days, right?
60 days.
60 days. So if somebody needs February 1st, they need a change. Do you have time? Yep. You can still go in there and get them coverage. In February, if somebody finds, oh my goodness, they switched me, I was put in the wrong plan, and they need this change for March 1st, can you do it? Yep, because their insurance ended 12/31. Now, you have to go in there, you update the application, you say they lost coverage 12/31 of 2023, and it automatically gives you that special enrollment period to switch them. Now, they need to understand if you're switching them from a carrier to a different carrier, that the deductible starts all over, the max out of pocket is not going to move. Make sure they understand that. But you have some time. And the reason I know this is because the Affordable Care Act used to end on December 15th. That was the last day. And we would get people that were, completely in the wrong thing or forgot to tell us and they needed to update their application. So that not smart of the system. Or is it smart? They did. The insurance did technically end 12/31. It never asked for proof of coverage ending if they're already in the marketplace. Some of the stupidness of this of our healthcare.gov system, I like. The smarter it gets, the less we're going to be able to do things for our clients. Now, the biggest issue right now, of course, is clients being stolen. Unfortunately, those giant call centers, they're gonna find something. They're gonna find a workaround. Until they get rid of the 150% SEP, to me, that was the biggest thing. We never had stolen clients. I mean, there might have been onesie twosies, but we never saw that until they had made anybody below 150 percentile of insurance, federal poverty level automatically gets an SEP. Well, you can say, I think I'm gonna make 20,000. And then 2 weeks later go, I'm really gonna make 80, but you're already in the system. So, even if they start doing some of the other things, the letters of consent and all of that, there's the big giant call people are still going to be there. So instead of worrying about the system, trying to make the system be smarter, because one, I don't know when it's gonna happen because it's a complete overhaul of healthcare.gov and it's cost millions and they just spent millions at the IRS. But if you educate your clients, and that's partly why I started this, because I want you to understand that educating your clients is the number one way to not have your clients stolen. If they see that ad that says, $200 of free groceries, you want them to call you first. So especially if you're in Florida, because I know Florida and Texas are the two big areas of a lot of stealing clients. In my state of Wisconsin, I've had one. And I guess she probably did. My guess is because she's not very smart. I think she saw an ad and she didn't even know, and she didn't even need it. She was on our Medicaid system, so that she's not really that smart. She's probably the only one who probably clicked on some ad, But in Florida and Texas, you need to educate your clients. You're gonna see ads. You're gonna see things that sound too good to be true. If you think it's too good to be true, call me. Because if you have something better than I can give you, I want to give it to you. Right? I mean, don't we all? I mean, if you could give them $1,000 a month to sign up for some plan to spend on groceries, wouldn't you give it to them? So if they feel like you're looking out for their best interest, call me. I also go, when was the last time you saw a Big Mac look anything like the Big Mac on the commercials? Never. I don't think it's looked that way since like the 80s, maybe. My ex-husband used to do Big Macs, and I'm like, I thought they were supposed to be this big, and they'd always be smushed, and grossly. And then people go, oh, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, just an ad. So the more you educate, the less you're going to have for stealing. And then as I was talking to another agent, the other thing is layering. If they have their dental through you and their health insurance and a critical illness policy and an accident policy, they're not, even if they get stolen, you're kind of moving, they're still your client because they trust you. So I'm very much a heart-centered agent. I do this because it helps people. I love helping people. I love having people that their lives are impacted because I'm doing something for them in a good way. And I think that's why most of you are on here, right? So, all right. I have a couple questions that did come through. Somebody said, I can't remember if this was you, Jill, but can you review making insignificant changes on the application during the year and handle how to get those applications to push through without an SEP? An example, an address change. The truth is there isn't any easier way. The way to change anything is the same way to change anything major. You have to update the application. Now, I got into the habit of making it an SEP. From this point forward, anybody who calls me and tells me of a change, an address change, Medicare person, one person's going to Medicare, income change, At the end of the application, I always put that they're losing coverage at the end of the month. So if somebody called me today, in fact, I had somebody, they want me to increase their income. They had to pay back last year and I'd rather they pay me. So he wants me to move their income to 100,000. So I'm going to go in there today. I'm going to update his income to 100,000 and I'm going to say he's losing coverage January 31st of 2024. And the reason I'm doing that is so that the changes I did happen February 1st. Now, if you don't do it for February 1st, if you don't say the coverage is ending, the change could happen on March 1st. So, I might say because it's the 21st, it's January 25th. I'll ask this man, hey, do you want me to make the changes for February, knowing your premium's not going to be exactly correct? Or do you want me to wait till March? So I'll ask him. But if I'm doing an address, I want that change to happen right away. I want it to get to the insurance company as soon as possible so the information is going out. If I'm taking somebody off of the insurance because somebody's 65 or about to turn 65, I go into the application, I click that that person no longer wants coverage, and then at the end of the application say that the person who is staying on the plan is losing coverage at the end of the month. Then that just does everything I just did. It pushes it to the next month. So there really isn't a quick way or easier way to change anything. The system is just old and antiquated. I'd love to see a show of hands of anybody who started doing the ACA back in 2013, 14, and 15. If anybody saw that classic, Ken, do you remember the classic app? One question per page. Zephyr, oh my goodness, it would take us, if you had a family of 10, my God, it was like 20 minutes. It would ask one question: is this child the legal guardian? Would have this list of this child. Nope. And then the next page, it would go, what about this kid and this kid? No, what about this kid and this? And it would be 10. Oh, it was insane. Do you remember that, Ken?
It was a
Just
total
share it.
mess. It was a
It
total
was
mess.
such a mess. Yep.
Yeah.
That's still the system. It is still what is behind it. If you still do healthcare.gov, every once in a while you'll get what they call the classic app. It'll end up reverting back to that. Now, they have a nice pretty picture, kind of I just think of it a covering. They put they have a Model T engine, but they put a Ferrari, cover on the top. It's still a Model T engine. It's still antiquated. So there isn't a quick way to make those changes. I typically just want the change to happen right away outside of income, because it's already the 25th. Maybe they have auto pay set up and I don't want them to be behind. So then I'll ask. So if you have to make a change, always just update the application, which then reminds me to somebody who had a question at Marketplace Mastery, or maybe it was ACA training came, I don't know, one of the Facebook groups, who wanted to know, should I cancel this policy to update the application and make a new one? You never do that. Once an insurance has started, once the policy, whether it's the right one or not, has already been implemented, don't cancel and make a new application. Just update the current application to be correct. If you need to get that SEP, you say coverage is ending December or January 31st, and it will just automatically let you change plans. And update it correctly. Because some of you, I don't know if you guys have had some stolen clients that were it was fraud. I'm so excited to report my first one. She's like, yeah, give me this letter. Because, the guy waited till December 31st to change her into a plan in a company she's never even heard of, doesn't cover her doctor. So, we called the marketplace, but it's not, I'm going to make sure it's right for February 1st. So I go in, say she lost coverage, and then, it's going to change everything and be effective the 1st. And then we have a letter written up to send him to the Wisconsin Department of Commissioners. So while healthcare.gov and CMS are keeping track, they're just slower to change. They're slower to get things moving. So report it to CMS, report it to the marketplace, but then report it to your state commissioners if you've got those people who are willing to sign. I asked her, I'm going to make this letter, and she's never heard of them. I know full well that this woman's been my client for years, and it was the same one who was probably clicked on an ad in the summer when she was on Medicaid. So that's just how to update. It's the same way whether you're doing anything, updating an application or for their phone number, their income, we'll talk about that again because you don't want to take somebody out of an SEP into a higher income bracket where it changes their deductible. I talked about that before. I will talk about that again because that one to me is really important. You don't want to screw somebody up who just got a job. Well, maybe they just got a job. Don't keep them in the CSR. You don't know if that job's going to last. You don't know how long. Maybe they work for 2 weeks and they quit, and you just said they're going to make 80,000, and then they hurt themselves. So we'll talk about some of that in the future. I saw there were some questions in the comments, so I will look over there before I go too long. Mary, you tripled your Medicare and ACA business together. That is kind of awesome. You know, good job, Mary. Now, the ACA Leads program with Walmart, yeah, it was their first time and they kind of threw it together. So I think there'll be something better coming through with that. But, and then some people did the Walmart and got some. So, you know, who knows? But it's definitely, but still, you tripled your Medicare and ACA business. Like, that's awesome. Good job, Mary. Jill, can you put the YouTube channel? I will, but I'm going to send it out with the link of the with the new YouTube channel with the new video after I get home because, like I said, I'm flying back to Wisconsin, so I will send that out and everybody can do it. I'm also going to make a quick video on my Next Step Insurance saying, hey, if you're a subscriber and agent, here's the link. Sharon didn't meet the numbers goal, had to learn a new system, but now that you understand it, next year will be different. Absolutely. Nothing like a new system to make you slow down, right? I don't know if anybody's had to have a massive computer overhaul. Oh, yeah. And I don't know what it is with carriers. Every year, some carrier will change their entire insurance, portal like 2 days before open enrollment. And you're like talking to a client, feeling like an idiot because you're like, the button used to be over here. But yes, now that you've got it, you got this in things, you'll be doing better. Maureen, you're new to this space, tried to get together, but time gets away. Totally understand that. So 2024 is your year. It's a good time to start. The SEP is still around for under 150. And I'm going to tell you right now, so many people want to retire. That's where most of our business came from. If you can tap into the market of early retirees, the people who, especially factory workers, find your local factory workers, reach out to the HR department as an expert. Hey, I'd love to talk to anybody who would like to retire. And if you can find a union representative, there is nothing more fun than somebody who comes into your office going, oh, I want to retire. I'm tired, but can I? And then you go, okay, what are you going to live off of? And they tell you social and pension or IRA, and you go, your insurance is $100 a month. And they're like, what? That's it? I'm done. I'm out. They always know more people that want to retire. Every single one person who wants to retire knows about 4 other people who want to retire. So they tell their friends, guess what? You can retire. Guess what? You can retire. It's one of the fastest snowballing referral sources that I can think of is retirees. So it's a good time to get in. You will get a lot of people people who are coming to you now to sign up for 2025. So, okay, they're not money right now, but they're going to be money. They're going to be a client. If you can talk to them now and they can start prepping and getting ready for being retired, they talk to their financial person, they bite the bullet and they actually retire. We meet probably half of our client meetings or prospect meetings from this point forward are people looking to retire. So it's the future retirement people. But they all come back. And meet with somebody, even if they're like, I'm thinking of retiring in 2028. And you're just going to go, what? Really? 2028? I know nothing. I don't know what the plans are going to be. There's a presidential election in there. It doesn't matter. Talk in generalities. I never give them a print off of the details of the plans when they're that far in advance, when they're 2 or 3 or 4 years in advance. I talk about generalities, that it's roughly 8 to 10% of your income, that this is the average cost. But don't talk about the plan details because, as you know, if you've been doing this, one plan that was cheap one year may be the most expensive the next year and vice versa. Just give them generalities, but they will come back to you. That's the planner. That's your time to say, all right, the deductibles keep going up. That max out of pocket every year is getting higher and higher. So I like to layer accident, critical illness. You can start putting that so that they're ready and they're preparing for that. So, I mean, that's been a debate in my office, or it was for many years. Do we let those people come in? I'm trying to get people who need it now, not 4 years from now, but every one of them will come back. So don't ever put somebody off who's like way out there. Teresa got her license in October of 2023. All right before the beginning. But you know what? You're great. By the time you're going to have lots of time to learn all the plans, kind of understand how this goes, and it's great. So that SEP in all states at 150 percentile, you know, and that was a federal rule. Again, the states. I cannot speak to state exchanges. That's why I'm going to bring state exchange experts in here. But that was a federal rule guideline because of the COVID. You know, it's one of the two things that are supposed to disappear for 2025. Does anyone else know what's supposed to disappear next year? No? The federal poverty level is supposed to disappear. The open where there's no the cliff. So right now, anybody who signs up who has insurance that will cost them more than 8.5% of their income, the second cheapest silver plan, gets a tax credit, regardless of income. And I got people that in the northern part of Wisconsin make $180,000 as a couple, and they still get a tax credit. As of January 1st of 2025, we revert back to the way it was before, so that only the people between 100 and 400% of federal poverty level get a tax credit. Now, I'm hoping Congress will pull their heads out of their asses and actually fix this. But right now, who knows what they'll do? So it's something your clients are going to be aware of. There's an election year, which really doesn't have any effect. I'm having gone through many election years since the Affordable Care Act was passed. I can tell you right now, you're going to hear a lot about that. Never get into politics with any of your clients. You never know what side of the aisle they're on, but you can just say federal government doesn't work that fast. And no matter what happens in the future, 2025 is set. So, you know, people get all worried like, oh, I don't know if I can pick a plan, it might disappear. It's not going to disappear in 2025. I make no promises about that, but for 2025, pick a plan. But if they don't change that rule, it's going to revert back to anybody who makes above 400% of the federal poverty level will not get a tax credit. So example, these aren't perfect numbers because I don't have the chart in front of me and I don't have those numbers memorized, but a couple of two who makes 75,000 gets a tax credit because they're at 400%. But somebody who makes 76, because they're over the 400 percentile, would get none, zero tax credit. But that makes no sense. I mean, they only make $1,000 more, and suddenly they're going to have to pay $1,000 a month. So it is something that we're keeping an eye on. I'm hoping, it's one of my special guests. I'm hoping to get somebody from legislative systems and just talk about that because it's a huge thing. So many people will be affected. Millions of people are going to be affected by that. It's a big deal, and I'm hoping NAHU, which I know they have a different name, NABIG, just doesn't sound as interesting as NAHU, but NABIG will be sending stuff out about that. I'm sending things to my clients, you know, talk to your representatives, because if they don't change that, millions of people are going to be affected by this. If that happens, there are options, and we'll talk about that, but that's one of the huge things that's supposed to change. The other thing that's supposed to change is right now the tax credit calculation is 8.5% of your income. So if the second cheapest silver plan costs more than 8.5%, you get a tax credit. Before they had changed that, it was 10%. So that is also supposed to go back. To me, 10% is not a big deal. I don't think somebody's going to stop taking insurance because of 1.5%. Still not 100% sure why Biden did that, but so that is also supposed to go back. So we'll find out. Those are some of the legislative changes that are coming. So Mary, to answer your question, if someone that didn't enroll in time, I could still get them in due to the income SEP. Yep, you can still do income SEP. Let's see. I have a few clients moving to Medicare for 2-1. What's the best way to get them off ACA and not mess the coverage with the members on that plan? So that's what I was talking about. You can go in as of right now, January 25th, on the application and unclick the Medicare person as needing coverage. And then at the end of the application, make sure you do this, say the people who are staying on the insurance are losing their coverage January 31st. That will make the changes for February 1st. If you don't do that, what happens sometimes is that it just ends the insurance today. And that's where you hear people talk about, oh, I have to call the marketplace on the last day of the month, or I do them on the last day of the month. We used to have to do that. I mean, I used to have it on the last day of the month. I had a, no matter where I was, I would go into my computer on Saturdays, vacations, didn't matter, and end people's coverage. And all of us that did that learned the hard way because we tried to do it earlier and it ended their Medicare coverage that day. So I had somebody who I asked, can I do an experiment? And they were like, sure. Partly because again, one of my insurance companies, Common Ground, they were pretty good about knowing that glitch. And there's some companies that know that glitch is there and they're not really cutting them off. But I had somebody who I asked, can I experiment? They said yes. So I did that in Health Sherpa, not at healthcare.gov. It will not work if you're trying to do it through healthcare.gov. And it will not work if you call healthcare.gov. So don't call them in the middle of the month because if you do, it's going to end it that day. But if you do it at Health Sherpa or Insura, any of those ones, and say the people staying on the plan are losing coverage at the end of the month, it will change everything you just did for the next month. Does that make sense? We're back to that VAH.gov in 2013. Large families take forever, Sharon. Yeah. You would think all of the state exchanges would have the easiest, fastest, nicest plans out there, but it's kind of a pain in the butt. Teresa said, what kind of updates and changes will deductibles make deductibles reset? Well, reset is changing from one carrier to another. That will do it. The other thing that happens that I was mentioning is if somebody was in a CSR, they're making $20,000 and they call you saying, hey, I got a raise, I got a new job, I'm making commissions and I'm going to make 60,000. Well, if you update their income to 60,000, they just lost their CSR. So they're, $1,500 or $3,000 deductible just jumped to 9,000. Don't do it. We actually had this happen. Somebody called us. She was, worked very low income job, got a job, moved her out. Now she went from the like $700 deductible or max out of pocket to $1,500. And then she broke her arm the first week and she lost her job. And suddenly her deductible, her max out of pocket that should have only been like 700 was suddenly 15. She had no job and she had to go on a payment plan. So I never update their income when they're in a CSR when they just get a new job. I tell them the next year, hey, this job is still going great, 2025, and your income is going to be higher. This plan may not exist. I kind of prep them for that, but don't do it their first year because they may quit their job. They may lose their job. They may end up getting injured right before that job really kicks in. So you don't want to move them from a low CSR up to that max out of pocket. So Teresa, you had a woman that chose me as our new agent and she'd already paid the premium. When I made the update, she had to pay that month's premium again. Probably she didn't have to, but if she paid 2 months premium, that means she's got a credit. So it kind of depends on when you did that. If you did it during open enrollment, that pay button just stays there, which we will go into that in future. But remember, it's not a smart system and the insurance company has to get the payment, process the payment, update their information, then send their information to healthcare.gov that then goes to Health Sherpa. And it can take 2 weeks sometimes, even if it's a zero, right? Everybody always says that it says $0 deductible. It still will take like 2 weeks for it to disappear or a $0 premium. So if she did have to pay twice or she just did pay twice, she should have a credit. You'll be able to see that. So the people that are in between Medicaid and the level to get a subsidy are still out in the cold, having to pay full price. No, Darla, there is never, ever a problem with reporting too much income. Is it possible as of February 1st through December 31st that somebody who might only make 13,000 could make 17, could make 16? It absolutely is possible. And then when they file their taxes and they only made 10,000, the IRS goes, okay. Because the IRS is paying the full premium, whether somebody's making 5,000 or whether somebody's making 15. If you are in a state that does not have a good Medicaid system, Texas, Florida, And South Dakota, I think, has gotten a little bit better. States that don't have sales tax, and there's those people that just in the middle. The IRS is paying the same amount. They don't really care. It was one of the things that Congress was trying to pass when they had done some updates. Part of the getting rid of the federal poverty level limit, the 8.5, was that if you lived in a state that did not have a good Medicaid system, so you're a single person making 14,000 and you're out in the cold, they wanted to just automatically put you into healthcare.gov. But again, antiquated system, and for whatever reason, it didn't go through. But I know many of my clients never make enough. And the IRS just goes, okay.
But then when you try to put that in,
Mhm.
they get the bill, the premiums an outrageous amount. That's what I'm trying to understand.
No, you have to put in the amount of income to get them qualified for tax credit. Don't put 10,000.
I do. I say, well, can you make this? And I play with the numbers to get them so they can get a subsidy, but I don't want it to be overloaded where they're like, oh my gosh, and then I'll get in trouble for suggesting that. I'm trying to help them. So if it's such a big stretch, that's where I get nervous.
IRS doesn't care.
Okay.
They really don't. I mean, again, whether somebody's making 17,000 and the IRS is paying 100% of their premium, it doesn't matter to them. What they care about is making more. If I say you make 17,000 and you're going to make 80, well, yeah, the IRS is going to say, give us the money back because you made more. But if I say you make 80 and you make 17, does the IRS get mad? No, they give you your money back. So there's never a penalty for saying you make more money than you actually do. And it's more important, statistically speaking, areas where somebody has insurance, they save the area money on taxpayer. Because if you have insurance, then you're going to go when you first get that cough. Otherwise, I have no insurance, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait. Oh, now it's an emergency. Now I'm in that hospital, and guess what? They're not going to pay that either. So then the insurance, the hospital has to write it off if they even, then they have to write it off. And then they end up causing the taxpayers more money because it's a medical emergency now. And so I always go back to, why was the Affordable Care Act created? To give people affordable insurance and to give them the preventative. So if I'm helping them get affordable insurance so that they can start getting their preventative and get there at a reasonable cost, then I'm doing the purpose of the Affordable Care Act. It's still so glitchy. It's still new. I mean, honestly, think about this. This is the first year healthcare.gov CMS has required consent. Do you guys realize that? They've never, ever said you even had to get consent. Now, I worked with Medicare and ACA. I had 2 agents I worked under. And I'm like, well, Medicare requires this, so ACA is gonna. So my office, we have been asking for consent since the beginning. But do you realize CMS is just now actually saying that? That's insane. Like, I think everybody was like, we'll see if it sticks around. We'll let them do whatever. And now they're like, oh, I guess this Medicaid, ACA is going to stick around. So now we're going to start seeing rules and regulations. And of course, it took bad apples. It took the call centers. It took those people who are doing things they should not be doing. And we all know about them, the unethical, changing people around for $20. I'm like, really? You're screwing with people's lives. Well, now we're going to start getting regulations. Now we're going to go down that path of Medicare, which I'm not happy about. I don't need a permission every time I talk to them. But yes, we finally have consent. To me, I was like, this is great. I now can prove that somebody did something they shouldn't have. And I know there's people, there's agents that don't think it's enough and that there should be other ways of doing this. But we couldn't even report people before, because technically they didn't do anything wrong, right? Now we have a reason to report them. So it's still new. It's still in its infancy. The state doesn't care, especially states where they can't get on Medicaid. The federal government doesn't care. They want people to have insurance because it's going to protect us overall. And they have shown that, statistically speaking. Now, since the Affordable Care Act, with the preventative maintenance, our catastrophic stuff has gone down because people are getting it caught ahead of time. So it's working, it's doing what it's supposed to do. And sometimes we have to manually make it do what it's supposed to do until it gets fixed. Sharon, that's how my book grew with the cliff went away. You can't survive at 150%. Yeah, you can't. And I don't think it should. Honestly, my own personal opinion, I wish they got rid of that SEP. I don't think that just because you're poor means that you have any less access to understanding that you have insurance options. It's caused more problems than not. Because, and it's not right to the insurance companies. I used to not understand this, why do they only have this 1 year of open enrollment? But really, they're trying to guess a whole year in advance for all the unhealthy people. And again, I come in a state that has a lot of nonprofits that are trying their best for people, but they really are trying to figure out how much money do they need to have in the pool to help people. Well, if there was no open enrollment, they could just sign up whenever. Would any of us have insurance until we got sick? Of course not. Right? You're like, man, I'll just wait till I need it. Got a cough. I'll sign up for insurance today. And then I'd, use it and I'd leave. Right? I mean, that's just human nature. That's what we would do. By letting this SEP happen whenever, that's what's happening. They're getting people all the time. I mean, it's kind of the wild, wild west for the insurance companies too, trying to figure out where they need to put their rates so that they can have enough money to cover the sick people, but not so much money that they have too much profits. Because if they have too much profits, they have to share them with United Healthcare. I know that's why they got out the ACA to begin with. They have to share them. They have to give them back to the clients, or they have to put them back into the plan. And so the ACA is nobody's trying to make a profit because they're not allowed to make a profit. I mean, there's a small margin. I see Bob's on here. Bob's used to work with Common Ground nonprofit. There's only so much. You're not supposed to have a big profit. The government said, we're going to help you, but we don't want the insurance companies. We're going to, have guaranteed payment, but we don't want you to become super rich off of us, which is what's happening in the Medicare world. I don't know if anybody's watching the Medicare Advantage plans and all that stuff that's happening, because that's what's happening. I mean, Humana got out of group insurance. They got out of individual insurance to just do Medicare. Well, that tells you where the money is, Medicare. United Healthcare and Humana joined forces and spent millions of dollars on a smear campaign to make it look like Advantage plans were going away. Well, I think the government is paying them too much. And that's kind of what's happened. The government is, I think, going, whoa, we don't want you to make money off of us. We're trying to help you protect our, citizens of the United States. And so they put in guidelines so they can't make a profit. So that's kind of where some of that stuff is happening. But if everybody's healthy overall, the society, the states, the counties that we're in are better. So yes, I put people that don't make enough money. And I got a guy who applied for Medicaid years ago, and he had too many assets, according to him, and he didn't qualify for 8 years. He never actually made enough money. 8 years in a row. Then he got married, and her income kicked him over. So now for the last 2 years, he's been on the marketplace. And the IRS has never once said, well, you made too little, pay us all the money back. So that's why I know you can report higher income, and there's never an issue to make less. And if you report 50 and you make 15, you're going to get all your money back, right? They're never mad at you when you make less money. They're not mad when you make more either. It's an even trade. I encourage all of you to get rid of the word penalty out of your vocabulary when telling your clients they're going to have to pay some money back. I just go, hey, you paid more than you should have, or they paid more. They want their money back. This is the IRS after all, right? So Lori's asking, do husband and wives need to be on the same plan? So you don't have to be on the same plan. You have to be on the same application together. So again, think of two different things. Your application reality, the application has nothing to do with health insurance. It's an application that you are applying to the government for a tax credit. So think of the application in totally the terms of an application. You're applying for tax credit. After the application is done, then you sign up for insurance, and you can absolutely go in different policies. I do it for clients who want different networks. I got to do it for a client where one is super sick and one is not. So we put one in a gold plan because they're trying to protect their wife with the least amount out of pocket, or husband, but the other spouse, super healthy never goes to the doctor. So I'll put one in a bronze and one in a gold situation. So if they want to go in different plans, totally fine, but they still have to be on the same application because the household is applying for a tax credit. Bob, do you still need me to go over? Oh, you said two scenarios, if the older person's primary and the younger person's primary. So always look at your ages of your people. If they are in their upper 50s to 60s, put the youngest person first. So when they're first signing up, put the youngest person as primary. And I always tell them, or whoever's going to be on Medicare first should be second. If you know somebody's disabled, don't put them first, even if they're younger. But when you first start out, put the youngest person first. And I tell them it's easier to drop the Medicare person off if they're listed second. So that's, the scenario. If the older person is primary and you're going to go in there and change them, if you can catch it before like during open enrollment, put them in two separate policies. So that when the oldest person drops off, the youngest person stays on their policy, nothing changes. But if you didn't catch it, so right now you're like, oh, somebody's going to go in there. And tomorrow or, February 1st, the primary person's the oldest and I'm going to drop them off. What happens is and again, antiquated system, it's weird, but because the application was under Bob and Susie is staying on, that application completely drops and a new application gets sent to the insurance company with Susie as primary and Bob is no longer on. So she ends up getting a new member number. Deductible starts over, max out of pocket starts over. Most carriers understand this and they move it over. I purposely try and remind them so it happens faster. But they get a new member number and everything changes. So they kind of need to know that because maybe they've got it on auto pay. Their auto pay is not going to work anymore. They have to set that up. Their prescriptions aren't going to work because they need a new member number. So this is why you always want to list the youngest first. Or whoever's going to be on Medicare, second, list them first. It's not a smooth system. And we can go over that again. In fact, I'll probably make a small video on that, put it on the YouTube channel to kind of show you how that works. And yeah, Ryan Jones, CSR is cost sharing reductions, which if you need more on that, I've got that on my YouTube channel. I also have that in my training class. So Jill, on that topic, I will go over that in more detail. I don't prep them. I just take less tax credit so that they pay the correct amount. I mean, I might prep them like if it's in the middle of the year, they've paid 6 months of a lower premium and I'm going to make the next 6 months, then I do. Yes. I'll say, all right, you making more money. Remember, IRS doesn't care when you make your money, January 1st or December 31st, you're going to pay the, taxes for the year. But I do update their tax credit, which will go into detail in the future. So my academy is ready. It's just the YouTube channel is blank right now, Cedric. So if anybody wants information about the training classes that I've done, I know quite a few of you have signed up for those classes. A few of you finished them. Some are still working on them. I do have a class that is for purchase and it walks through in great detail all of this stuff. What if someone gets a new job that has insurance coverage? Should you wait a few months to take them off the ACA in case the job doesn't work? No, that one you can't because then they miss their special enrollment, their open enrollment because they're a new job. Usually, most jobs have a wait. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. All of my groups, I have one that actually has no wait. So it's pretty rare for there to be instant signing up for that plan. So have them sign up and then just say, hey, if you lose this job, let me know and we'll put you back on. So, because they can go back onto the marketplace, back to the same plan they had, their deductible would kick in where it was. My CRM is HealthSure or Agency Block, HealthSure, but Agency Block, and that's how we use it to track our clients. So Cedric said, what's the best way to track clients? That's just how I do it. I don't know if it's the best, but once they're in, we have the reason we bought Agency Block was because they have a commission structure. So we can upload all our commissions and we can see who's missing. For people that don't make enough, they don't get a subsidy, you're saying we should increase this income. Yeah, because it's possible they can make more. Nobody knows what they're going to make. None of you know what you're going to make. Somebody who's got a 9-to-5 job for the last 20 years, same job, doesn't know what he's going to make because it's all in the future. They could lose their job, they could gain a job. So we don't really know. Mike, regarding your point about changing income and CSR, is this only if the new job doesn't offer group benefits? No, that's just whenever, because I'm not going to have them go into a $9,000 max out of pocket when they just started a job. So I don't change the CSR, even if it's only for 2 months, and then they're going to go on their group policy. That's great, you know, but I never change somebody out of the CSR because of their income. Regarding not changing the income with a new job, if they get a job and makes significant more money and we don't change their income until the next year, what's their tax liability? Whatever they should have been paying. So it's an even trade. If they, and I always say it's about 10%, at least it seemed like. So if somebody made $1,000 more than was reported, they pay back $100. If they made $10,000, they paid back $1,000. So it's again not a penalty. It's just what they would have been paying, and it's going to be significantly less. I mean, if I say you made 70 and you make 80 and you have to pay back $3,000, you made $30,000. You know, and it's one of the few times I use percentages on people, and I go, "You're only going to pay 10%," and then they go, "Oh, okay." 10% sounds a lot less than $3,000, but it's only 10%. So that's, and you can run it. You can say, well, let me run a quote, pretend like your income was that. We've told people exactly what they're going to have to pay back. And I've had some that are like, all right, don't touch anything. I'll just pay that 3,000 when I get there. Okay. If someone underestimated their income and got more subsidy than they were entitled, the IRS expects the payback during tax time. Yep. Nope, they don't get flagged again. Now, the flagging, if you have gotten that, hey, send us proof of income, send us proof of income, send us proof of income, which to this year I had hardly any. So I don't know. I didn't see that very often. You can write a letter of, it's called a letter of explanation. So yes, you could get flagged, but it's not a negative flag. So again, not a smart system. The system just says, hey, based on 2022's income, you made 120,000. I see this with retirees. You made 120,000 and you just now said you're making 60. But then I get the magic question and it'll say, why is it different? And it gives you a list of 4 options. And one of them is because of job change or whatever. Click that and then it doesn't ask for proof of income. Again, these will be more detailed in the future. So it's kind of flagged, but not really. And then I just say this person, here's my letter of explanation. So it's not flagged. It's not going to be negative. They're not like looking at you or your client. Is it generally better for someone to be on the marketplace versus state Medicaid? What are the pros and cons? That's going to vary. My state Medicaid system's amazing. I don't know why anybody doesn't want it, but I have people who are like, I am not doing that. All right. So I don't know that there's a better or worse, except Medicaid's usually free. But again, depends. Some of the states that have the expanded Medicaid. Mine is not an expanded Medicaid. My state covers everybody, though, below 100% of the federal poverty level. But then there's states that have the Medicaid up to 150. So I don't know if there's a pro or con. Some people just think it's a negative thing. But I know some states that's a really narrow network and maybe they need something different. Oh, Jill, thank you. For anyone that is new to Chris's ACA, new to ACA, Chris's class for purchase is great. Chris will be adding more to the Academy with everything moving forward to the YouTube channel. Yep. So everything's going to be on the new YouTube channel as well. I'm not going to go over the max repayment clause for 2024 because it rarely actually is valid. There's a repayment stop, but only if you're below 140 percentile of the federal poverty level. And most people are over that. And most of the time it's about where you are. So I never tell that to clients. I don't want somebody to think, oh, I'll just make enough. I'll make more. And then it'll be, there'll be a cap at how much I have to pay back. I let the tax persons handle that. I will send out the information. We're kind of pretty much at the top of the hour here as far as my class. I do want to know for next week, I would like you all to bring the top 3 things that you hated about open enrollment and the top 3 things you liked. And we're going to have a little mini session where we're just going to go blah. I want to hear all your top 3 things that you did not like, open enrollment, whatever it was. I've got some, and my staff will be on. They're off this week. They're going to be on. They're going to talk about so I want your top 3 things that you just disliked about the marketplace, the open enrollment, whether it's Medicare or an ACA being at the same time, whatever it is, and then the top 3 things that you liked. So we're going to do pros and cons. And if you've got other questions, send those back to me by email. There's a lot of different information. I will be starting a podcast because there's so much little stuff. I'm going to do podcasts. I'm going to have a subscription thing that you can do for little quick things. So you don't necessarily have to listen to me talk for an hour. You can listen to me talk for 10 minutes or 5 minutes or something about some of this. So like Denise asking, what's the best way to get clients approval for you to work on their behalf? I just ask them. In fact, I don't even ask them. It's kind of a sent. I just send them the link that they have to sign before they even come in and talk to me. I don't ask. It's kind of assumed. So there's lots of stuff like that. I have sent out the consent form and intake forms. Form doctor is who I use. There's a coupon for that. So there'll be lots coming up in the next weeks in classes. Again, if you have extra things you want, send those to me ahead of time because I won't always have time to get through all the class or all the comments during the class. Thanks for showing up this first week. It was nice to see your faces again. I will talk to you next week. I'll be back in my office and a little more prepared, but let me know again, any questions you have, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, everyone.